this video, I'm going to show you the number one factor that lowers the size of your Social Security payment. Coming up next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
If you're new to the channel, hi, my name is Jeff. I'm a CPA turned author turned public speaker. I'm also the creator of the course Social Security Simplified. I started this channel in 2020 at the request of my daughter. She saw me helping family members out with their finances, giving them great financial information, and she said, "Dad, if you can help them, can't you help others as well?" And with that, the channel was born. Today we have over 400,000 subscribers, over 60 million views, over 5 million hours of watch time, and we would love it if you became part of our YouTube family. Simply click subscribe and turn on notifications, and you'll get alerted the next time we post a video. We post about 3 times a week. If we're honest, just about everybody would prefer to have a larger Social Security payment compared to a smaller Social Security payment. Now, I've had a few comments on this channel over the years from people that said that they didn't care. In fact, they would prefer to have a smaller Social Security payment for other reasons outside of Social Security, usually linked to something happening in the outside world. But by and large, if you could snap your finger and make your Social Security payment larger, most people would do it. Unfortunately, there is a correlation between what you put into Social Security and what you take out. But also, like most things in life, a large percentage of the size of your payment is caused by some very small actions, the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule in life basically means that there are a small subset of things that you do which have the biggest impact on your goal, and the rest either don't matter or they don't have a very big impact at all. Social Security is like that. But other things are like that too. If you drive, 80% of the time, you're driving on 20% of the roads that you drive on. 20% of your closet is responsible for 80% of the wardrobe that you wear. With Social Security, the power move isn't trying harder and earning a little bit more money. It's finding the 20% that gives you the biggest increase. And with Social Security, there are 4 levers that you can pull to increase the size of your Social Security payment. 2 will have a major impact, and 2 won't have much of an impact at all. Get the 2 right, and you'll be golden, so to speak. In order to understand how this works, you need to have a basic understanding of how your Social Security payment is calculated. What I'm going to show you next isn't hard to understand. You don't have to do any calculations whatsoever. I'll do them all for you, but if you want to give it a try, you can. Just know that you don't have to. On this channel, we have 3 affiliate relationships. One is our trusted Medicare partner chapter. The fact is, Medicare can be confusing, overwhelming. People do a lot of research and still make mistakes. And these mistakes often cost them thousands of dollars per year. Chapter is the only Medicare advisor that compares and recommends every plan, saving clients an average of $1,100 per year. Viewers routinely tell us that Chapter makes their options crystal clear and saves them a lot of money. The best part is that they're easy to work with and it's totally free to you. If this is of interest to you, give them a call at 440-703-1224 to help you make the most out of your Medicare. There are 3 simple steps to calculating your Social Security payment. The first is to index your historical earnings into today's dollars. And this is done by multiplying your historical earnings times an indexing factor. The farther back you go, the larger the indexing factor. Once you have the best 35 years in today's dollars, you add those 35 years together and you divide by 420. What's 420? It's 35 years times 12 months. And this is going to give you your average earnings in today's dollars per month over the last 35 years. It's called the average indexed monthly earnings. Now, if you want to get really technical, this calculation happens one time at age 62, even though you can go onto the SSA website right now and plug in your anticipated year that you're going to turn 62. It isn't accurate, or as accurate anyway, until you actually turn 62. If you turn 62 in 2026, the SSA will index your earnings through 2024, and they give you a 1 from age 60 onward. Looking at the SSA website, this is the indexing chart for earnings for someone reaching age 62 in 2026. Let's say that you graduated from high school in 1983 and got a job and earned $10,000 in 1983. The discounting factor is 4.58, which means if you earned $10,000 back in 1983, in today's dollars, it would be worth $45,800 in 2026. That's what I mean by in today's dollars. If you graduated from high school in 1984 instead of 1983, the factor would be a little smaller. It would be 4.33. So if you earned $10,000 in 1984, that would be worth $43,300 in today's dollars. The SSA takes all of your historical earnings and multiplies them to an indexing factor. The closer you get to today, the smaller the number becomes. Eventually, it becomes 1, which means that it multiplies times 1, and it is what it was. So if you turn 62 in 2026 and you earn $10,000 in 2024, that $10,000 would be multiplied times 1, and in your chart of 35 years, it would have a value of $10,000. By the way, if you want to try this yourself, I'll show you at the end how to get to the SSA website to calculate your own indexing factors. So the SSA does this for all of your years and takes your best 35 years after indexing and sums those 35 years together and then divides that by 420 months. So just making it really simple, if you average $50,000 per year in today's dollars for 35 years, that's $1,750,000. Divide that by 420, and the average indexed monthly earnings is $4,167. And if you had had 40 years of earnings, and 35 of them were $50,000, and 5 of them were $49,900, those 5 would be thrown out. They would take the best 35 years, and that's it. But what happens if you only work 30 years instead of 35 years? And in those 30 years, you average $50,000 per year in today's dollars. The SSA gives you zeros for the other 5. So you would take 30 times 5, that's 1,500,000, and you would divide that by 420. This gives you an average indexed monthly earnings number of 3,571. So no matter what your earnings, you now have your historical earnings brought into today's dollars, and you basically get an average of what you earn per month over the last 35 years, or your best 35 years. Is the SSA just going to give that to you as your Social Security payment? No, they're going to haircut it. And an interesting point to note here, the more you earn, the bigger that haircut becomes. So let's go back to the 35-year number, $4,167 per month on average. The SSA uses a formula called bend points. Now I call bend points the Great Equalizer because the person who earned a modest income is going to get a lot more back from their Social Security contributions compared to the person who earned a very large income. What happens if we feed that $4,167 into the bend points formula? Well, the formula works like this. In 2026, the SSA will give you 90% of the first $1,286 of that amount, 32% of any amounts between $1,286 and $7,749, and 15% of any amount over $7,749. You get 90% of $1,286 and 32% of the rest. That's $1,286 times 0.9 plus $4,167 minus $1,286 times 0.32. That's $1,157.40 plus $921.92. Your Social Security payment at full retirement age is $2,079.32. This is the amount that you receive at full retirement age. If you claim early, that amount is going to be discounted. If you wait past full retirement age, you're going to get a premium on this amount. Now, what would happen if you took 5 years away, 30 years instead of 35 years? The second example we used. We already know that the average index monthly earnings is $3,571 from earlier, and you feed that number into the bend points formula. You take $1,286 times 90%, and you add that to the difference between $3,571 and $1,286 times 32%. Your Social Security payment is $1,888.60, which is 9.2% smaller. Why isn't it lower than that? The original starting point, $3,571, is 14.3% less than the previous original starting point of $4,167, because the bend points formula gives more credit to the lower income levels and less credit to the higher income levels. In this case, both income levels got 90% of the first $1,286 and 32% of the rest. So if you take 5 years of earnings away, that means you're not going to feel the impact the way you would if it was one constant multiplier for everything. This also means that if you earn more, a lot more in fact, you're not going to have the same type of impact particularly above $7,749 per month. You only get 15%. Don't get me wrong, it still goes down, but you can see that if you strip away 5 years of earnings, or you have 5 bad years, the proportional impact is much less. This also means that people who earn a lot of money proportionally get back a lot less from their contribution than people who earn a lot less. In 2026, the payment to Social Security is 6.2% for the employee, 6.2% for the employer, and it's capped at $184,500. That's $15,375 per month. Now let's say that you were just a big earner and you earned that for the entire 35 years. You would pay your full Social Security payment on everything up to that $184,500 cap, but any amount above $77.49, you would get 15% back instead of 90% back. So 1/6 of the lower tier you'd get back. The point is, with 1/6 of the benefit at the higher end, a higher earnings amount doesn't look like the 20%er that you're looking for. Will it help? Yes, but it's not the biggest influence on the size of your Social Security payment. So if it's not bigger earnings and it's not 35 years, what's left? As a recap, recall that the person with 35 years of earnings had a Social Security payment of $2,079.32 at full retirement age. The person with 30 years of earnings had a Social Security payment of $1,888.60 at full retirement age. The person with 5 years less earnings had a payment that was $190.72 less. Let's go back to that $2,079.32. What happens to that payment if you claim 5 years earlier? We can see at full retirement age, at age 67, you get the full $2,079.32. But if you look at the Social Security discounts and premium chart, if you claim at age 62, 5 years earlier than age 67, you get 70%. That's $623.80 less per month by claiming 5 years earlier. And by the way, if you claim at age 70 instead of age 67, that increases your payment to $2578.36, which is $499.04 more than full retirement age and $1,122.84 more than claiming at age 62. All things being equal, 5 years off of your claiming age has a dramatic impact on your Social Security payment. 5 years off of your 35 years has a much smaller impact. That is your 80-20. And as an aside, high-end earnings are extremely hard to come by. More in your control are the number of years that you work, but sometimes life gets in the way. Perhaps you become a stay-at-home parent for 10 years, who knows? Out of all things on the list, when you claim Social Security has the most impact, it's also the one that you have the most control over. If you'd like to access the indexing factors page on the Social Security website, you can just use the QR code on the screen. I've also put a link in the description below under SSA indexing factors. If you like this video, check out that video, why your 2026 COLA adjustment just feels wrong. Also, don't forget to call our partner Chapter if you have questions about Medicare, 440-703-1224. This is Jeff Schmidt, and I will see you in that video right there.